kind of a disappointing week so far. I mean, it's been highly entertaining, the back and forths in the House of Commons, the press conferences, just tensions rising across the board. But yesterday, you had Pierre Poilievre put forward a motion for a vote of non-confidence, which would then, if successful, trigger a federal election. And we all kind of were hoping that this would happen because you have the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, who tore up publicly. He tore up his coalition. He did a massive breakup video with Justin Trudeau, and the Bloc has been heavily criticizing Justin Trudeau. So it seemed like they would vote in favor, but no, it turns out that they have not. So the motion got denied, which is extremely disappointing. But what's come out of this? Well, this is where it gets a little tricky. You have the Bloc now saying, if we don't get what we want by the end of October, we will see an election before New Year's. So there's that promise, which is kind of nice. But again, there's a lot of corruption within politics. And the only one who's calling out the corruption of all these coalitions, it's not Pierre Poilievre. I mean, yeah, he does it, but it's actually Elizabeth May. So we're going to take a look at that in a little bit. Also, Putin is threatening nuclear war. Yeah, again, it's kind of getting out of control now with what's happening in Lebanon and all the ceasefires that are being called. And there's a whole lot of things that are going on, as well as what happened today in question period. So if you're looking for what happened today in question period, the recap, go towards the end of the video. But for the most part, this entire video has got a lot of smaller stories. So buckle up, because this is going to be one heck of a video for you. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. We're on route to 410,000 subscribers, and it would be awesome if we got there sooner than later. And without further ado, let's get into it. So the polls are looking like this. You got Pierre Poilievre still with the 220 projected seats. He only needs 172 for majority government, and the bottom line is showing 192. Liberals need 60, or they have 64 projected seats. And I'll be honest, after yesterday, I'm stuck in the middle on whether they're going to go up in the polls or whether they're going to go down, because Trudeau did throw this massive tantrum, and he did claim that Pierre Poilievre or members of the Conservative Party made homophobic remarks, and we're going to be taking a look at that in a little bit, so just stay tuned. But it just feels like he's always choosing these weird victimization cards, right? Like, someone said something homophobic. It's not really, but kind of. We're going to look at that soon. The Bloc has 42 projected seats, and the NDP has 15. Pierre is at 99% likely across the board for winning the most seats and of a majority government. So everything is looking just as it should right there. What's kind of new, though, is Justin Trudeau is calling for a ceasefire. When he says Canada is calling for an immediate ceasefire along the Lebanon-Israel border. It has been devastating to the civilians in harm's way, including the 2 innocent Canadians killed. We will support all diplomatic efforts towards de-escalation and a peaceful resolution. This has gotten so out of hand that even in the video that I posted this morning, I showed that Israel hit a weapons depot in Lebanon, which made a massive explosion. You had civilians running away, panicking in the streets. Even Pope Francis has chimed in and said, we need to stop. This needs to stop. It's getting out of control. You have government corrupt here sharing this. Yesterday, Trudeau said that he wants, or that he supports Ukraine using long-range missiles on Russia. But then in turn, that would, like Putin has said, if you do that, we're then going to escalate it to nuclear warfare. So the ceasefire seems to only be applicable in certain instances. Like he's a warmonger with Ukraine, but he wants the ceasefire to happen with Israel. It's just very selective. And then also what's happening is Justin Trudeau accepts the order of freedom from the Ukraine President Zelensky.
By decree of the President of Ukraine for outstanding personal contribution into strengthening interstate cooperation, supporting state sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, the Order of Freedom is awarded to Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada.
Great honor for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
President.
Right. So the man who wants Ukraine to launch long-range missiles into Russia, triggering a nuclear war across the world, is given the Order of Freedom Award. It just seems very bizarre. And in response to all of what's happening in Lebanon, This is Putin's message, as you can see with the big text, nuclear deterrence, right? We will use nuclear weapons if a mass enemy missile or UAV is launched towards Russia, or when these weapons cross into Russian territory.
In the updated version of the document, aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the support of a nuclear state, is proposed to be considered as their joint attack on Russia. Russia will also consider the possibility of using nuclear weapons when receiving reliable information about a massive launch of means of aerospace attack and their crossing of our state border. This includes strategic and tactical aircraft, as well as cruise missiles and drones, hypersonic and other delivery vehicles. Russia reserves the right to use nuclear weapons in case of aggression, including if the enemy, using conventional weapons, poses a critical threat.
Now, this isn't the first time that Putin has threatened nuclear weapon. I've covered this several times, even on this channel here. I don't know. It feels like the more he says it and then doesn't actually do it, it just feels like it's unlikely. It's just scare tactics. But at the same time, I don't really want to find out. And I wish that our world leaders, including Justin Trudeau, would actually, consider these threats as real and tangible, because they do have a significant amount of nuclear warheads. And once it happens, there's no going back. Once one flies, other countries are going to be pushing that button, either as a panic or as a retaliatory response. And it just seems like it's nuts that we're actually discussing the potential of nuclear warfare. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And now we're taking a look at a story that is probably 99% likely about to have insane backlash. You have the NDP here that introduces a bill to criminalize residential school denialism. Now, we've talked a little bit about this on the channel because it comes up, infrequently, every now and then, a couple times a year, about how much money the government has put into trying to find the remains of the children from these residential schools. So far, I don't have the exact amount of money, but it's in the millions, like dozens of millions of dollars. And it's been so unsuccessful that the government has quietly this year clawed back how much money they're putting towards this search because they just haven't found anything. So it's not really denialism, it's where is the proof, right? And this is crazy that you have, even, what was it, the NDP member from Timmins up in Northern Ontario, he had tried to push a bill forward earlier this year, last year, that basically says if you say oil and gas is good, then you can go to jail. That's absolutely insane. It didn't get passed through, but it just seems like the NDP is so freaking radical. Like, what happened to freedom of speech? What happened to where's the proof? That's all people want to know is where's the proof? It's not really denialism. It's waiting for the proof, right? Substantiate the claim. And it's such a touchy subject because there's a lot of Indigenous communities that you can tell this topic is very, very, you got to tiptoe around it because it's so emotionally, triggering because, some people have experienced it, or maybe, their parents or grandparents have experienced things and it's been passed down. But nonetheless, we should have some form of proof. So the NDP MP says that the purpose of the school was to extinguish Indigenous cultures and languages, and if the government is serious about reconciliation, it needs to protect survivors and their families from hate. An estimated 6,000 children died in the schools, though experts say the actual number could be much higher. Right. So again, penalizing people to criminalize this discussion, and if you don't agree, then it's a criminal offense. That seems radical. But let me know what you guys have to say about that down in the comments. You have Conservative MP saying, "Are you still watching? We are." Because Netflix pulls sponsorship of development program across Canadian arts institutions in wake of Bill C-11 measures. And you can see one of the comments here says, shocker. You got censorship across the board. And then we're revisiting one of the clips from yesterday where pay attention to this fella right here.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw the comment about defecating. I certainly... Using the word crap. I shouldn't use that. I know crap is unparliamentary. But I will also, Mr. Speaker, when someone says something that is clearly homophobic, not them, I'm not accusing them of homophobia, I'm saying they made a homophobic...
Bruh.
I didn't notice this when it was happening. I was too busy screaming, but maybe some other people did. What is going on with the facial reactions? That's your boss, sir. Why are you reacting like that? You should be 100% believing everything your boss says, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. And then immediately after question period, you had one of the Randys do a press conference and double down on the fact that the Conservatives have said this homophobic remark. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to talk about the comments that were made in the House today. Clearly, the Conservative Party is the party that has real difficulty with queer people, 2S LGBTQIA people and our rights. Look, I've dealt with this kind of discrimination and homophobic jokes my whole life. And, you know, when I came out, I had friends who later said, look, we didn't know the effect this had on you growing up. And I think every Conservative MP needs to check themselves and realize that they've got queer people in their ridings and that this is not a locker room from the 1980s.
Would you like to see an apology for it?
Absolutely. Look, somebody's being a coward. Somebody's hiding behind Parleview. Somebody is making a comment that's homophobic, and then a bunch of other people are laughing, and they're getting caught up in the audio, and now when they're caught out, they're being a coward. So which of the Conservative MPs is the coward today? Let's have them stand up.
Did you hear who it was?
I did not hear who it was. I was writing out a card to a constituent, and by the time I looked up, I couldn't peg who it was. But look, it's not cool. Like, look, take us, you know, we can talk about a $9 million condo in New York that's saving Canadians money, that's going to help us represent Canada in New York.
Okay, hold on a second here. A $9 million condo in New York is saving Canadians money. Do you even hear yourself, Randy? Like that on its own doesn't make any sense at all. That is such an absurd amount of money that benefits insiders such as yourself. And then you're trying to say, guys, no, you got to believe me. Us spending that money on a lavish lifestyle, it does save you, the taxpayers' money. Come on, bro. Who are you trying to fool? That's insane.
But that's not the time to have a homophobic slur thrown at anybody, nonetheless the Prime Minister.
I missed the beginning. Who said what?
I wish I knew. And what I said is there's a Conservative coward out there hiding behind Parleview and the fact that we don't know.
Right there. That's the problem. Who said what? What was said? The answer that Randy just gave was, well, I don't know, but there was something that was said. There was something. I know. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, folks, but I'm triggered because I don't know what it was, but I can only assume that something homophobic was said because everyone is saying something homophobic was said. Just because Justin Trudeau threw this massive tantrum and said, hey, look, you can't say homophobic things, right? And threw this big stink. Like, what was said? The guy right now doing collateral damage for the Liberals to really just pound it to the Conservatives just admitted he doesn't even know what the hell was said. Are you kidding me? How is this even allowed? How are you allowed to do a national broadcast like this and make the assertion that a homophobic comment was said when you're asked what was said and he says, I don't know? Come on, man. That's ridiculous. And then immediately after question period, when Justin Trudeau walked out, this is what he had to say about the situation.
I'm always going to stand up to bullies. When anyone makes a homophobic comment, I will respond, and that's something I need to do.
What if TP2 tries to withdraw?
What was said? What was said? What was said? You have this outrage on social media claiming that, you know, this homophobic slur was said. There was an MP that potentially said something about a bathtub. That's all. Right? That's the only evidence that we have. We don't actually know what was said unless I haven't seen it. I've been looking. I have not seen what was said. You have an MP, LGBTQ representative MP, right? Because he just said that when he came out and this and that, he dealt with that his entire life. Randy, right? One of the Randys. Didn't even know what the hell was said. That's absolutely insane. But what we do know is that Marty in 2022 said this on X. I deleted a tweet yesterday because it seemed to offend a lot of people. I'm putting it back up. It's my honest personal opinion that Justin Trudeau is a closeted homosexual or at least bisexual. Watch how giddy he gets attending pride events. he'll come out after politics. And Marty, I have to agree. I do think that Justin Trudeau is Canada's first gay prime minister. It's not like a dig. It's not like, gotcha. It's not at all that. It's just a fact, right? It's not a slur to say that. Look at Justin Trudeau's reaction on an interview when you have this interviewer say, will there ever be a gay prime minister? And Trudeau says, yeah, there will. But I want to make sure that we live in a Canada, in a country that you don't even know that this person is gay.
Looking into the future, what would you like your government's legacy on LGBT issues to be?
To get it to a point when we have an LGBT prime minister and nobody notices. I think just understanding that this is a trend line we're on, that we still have more work to do. But I think if the legacy is us anchoring Canada as a place of openness and respect and defense of everyone's rights, then that'll be a good one.
Again, Justin Trudeau, is he or is he not? It doesn't really matter. But I am under the personal belief that once it's all done, once Trudeau, either right before an election or once he's out of office and he's the leader of the opposition party, the Liberals, right? I think that he will come out. It's just, all the evidence is there, and this isn't an expose. A lot of people are also under the impression. Again, after question period took place yesterday, Karina Gould got on a press conference here and provided some collateral damage for the Liberals to support the rhetoric that was ongoing yesterday.
Well, look, the only party that is putting forward these confidence motions are the Conservatives because they are playing games, and I find it actually quite kind of lame that, just moments after they have lost that motion in the House of Commons, they're putting forward another one. I think what we're seeing today is that, this House does not have confidence in the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. And that is something that, what we hear from the opposition parties is just how bad he would be for Canada. So we'll take it day by day, but, I'm going to continue to work with the other parties and work for Canadians.
When does your party want to go to an election?
We are committed to making sure that we deliver for Canadians. There's a fixed election date in just over a year from now. We're in a minority parliament, so we're going to have to see how things go. But my job is to do that hard work of negotiating with the other parties. And what I can say is that I think today was a good day for the country, because I don't think Canadians want an election. What they want to see is politicians, legislatures working together and working for Canadians. And we saw that 3 parties in the House can do that. There's only one party that can't. It's the Conservatives, and it's because it is all about their own personal political ambition, and it is not about Canadians.
Canadians do want an election. That's why the polls are where they are, and that's why there's just so much evidence to back that up. Trudeau, everywhere he goes, he gets heckled. You got ongoing protests from coast to coast to coast, right? It's insane. There's no prime minister ever that's been in that position that's so hated, that is so unpopular, right? It's wild. Canadians absolutely want an election and deserve an election. It's the politicians that are blocking it. Now, one thing she said was very interesting, that the next scheduled federal election is, this time next year, October next year. That is true. But what we could see is the Bloc turn against Justin Trudeau. Now, why didn't they do that yesterday in the vote of non-confidence? Because the Bloc wants something. Of course, everyone wants something, and they're using blackmail to get it. So here is a press conference of the Bloc saying, if we don't get what we want by the end of October, we are going to have an election by Christmas. All right? It's in French, so we're not going to listen to. I'll play it for a second.
Le Bloc Québécois veut rendre publiques les conditions en vertu desquelles il évitera.
Okay, so he's got conditions, and the translation is he's saying that he will only bring down the government if he doesn't get what he wants by the end of October. Now, this could be huge, right? A lot of people were banking on what just happened with the vote of non-confidence to be the one and done kind of thing. And now you got all the momentum of this online rhetoric and Trudeau's, all these coalitions denying the motion. But I really think that the Bloc could turn on Trudeau if they don't get what they want. And are they going to get what they want? Well, to explain that here is Elizabeth May, who is really, really calling out all of the corruption that happens in Parliament.
Given that you called what the Conservatives doing a stunt, the Bloc Quebecois says they're giving the government till October 29th to pass 2 bills, or maybe even earlier, they'd be prepared to vote with the Conservatives to bring down the Trudeau government. What do you make of that?
I think it's completely predictable that having Mr. Singh withdraw from the confidence and supply agreement. The balance de pouvoir est maintenant avec le Bloc Québécois. I don't think for 1 minute that Mr. Blanchet, I appreciate his saying that the Bloc are now the adults in the room. Hello, the Green Party is here and we remain the adults in the room. There will be jockeying for position. There will be trading, there will be bribes, and there will be offers to be bribed, and it will continue until after the next budget.
What do you mean by bribes?
This is politics in Canada. We know that sometimes to get a budget passed, a governing party will provide more concessions to a smaller party to get the budget through.
Wow. Really telling Canadians how it is. Now, look, we don't really give Elizabeth May a whole lot of credit, right? Because she does say some crazy unhinged things, especially in the House. But to be fair, she does get only 30 seconds to talk at the end of question period once everybody has pretty much left, because most people are there to see, leader of the opposition, Pierre and Trudeau or Jagmeet. Like there's certain time chunks that the majority of people tune in. So the fact that Elizabeth is at the very end, she kind of has to say some crazy things or in a crazy way to stand out for that, what she says, to have any momentum and carry any weight either in the media or social media. And so she's very good at that, surprisingly. Like yesterday was a pretty unhinged rant about Israel, the prime minister of Israel. But nonetheless, Elizabeth May, like we make fun of her for the whole Lizzie Dizzy thing and how she got on stage and was drunk and did this whole speech. But she's kind of like that aunt or that grandma that just unfiltered and just says it how it is. And we kind of make fun of her and we laugh at it sometimes because it's so crazy and so absurd. But once time goes on and it turns out that she's right about some things, it's like, maybe we should give it some more thought. So I personally, I believe her. I believe that there's a lot of backdoor deals that happen in politics. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of bribes, right? We see that with these coalitions. But the fact that she talks so openly about it is pretty phenomenal. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And now to wrap this video up, we're going to take a look at the question period highlights that occurred today. So here we go.
Colleagues, as I've indicated in my ruling earlier today, the Chair has offered the Leader of the Official Opposition the opportunity to make amends regarding the words he used last week, or else I would remove questions from him during question period today. Having not received such a commitment on his part, and the member having not withdrawn his comments, I will therefore remove 3 questions from the Leader of the Official Opposition in the opening round today.
Whoa!
Collègue.
Wait, what?
Oral questions.
Oral questions. Questions orales. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, soon to be next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Someone over there thinks about monetary policy. Mr. Speaker, who would be against the following motion? That, given that, after 9 years, the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a very simple answer to his question as to who's opposed to that motion. Canadians.
Canadians didn't vote yesterday. You dictators did.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
minutes ago, I asked the government who could be against a motion pointing out that this government's doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, and unleashed crime to give Canadians the chance to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And she said, Canadians are against all of those things. If that's the case, then why won't she let them decide in a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a little sad that the Leader of the Opposition, having just lost a vote of non-confidence in the government yesterday, is putting forward the exact same motion today. I think it shows his desperation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's not desperation, it's what Canadians want.
Position.
No, in fact, the motion specifically demonstrates that this government, this NDP Liberal government, has doubled housing costs. I found it interesting that the NDP has now discovered that they doubled housing costs. A second ago, a Montreal MP stood up to point to a young woman, Pascal, who can no longer afford to rent, much less to own, after housing costs have tripled in that city. When I was housing minister, rent was $700 in Montreal, and we built almost 200,000 units. Mr. Speaker, why can't the NDP put their actions where their words are and vote for a carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
These slogans are clever, but they are empty, Mr. Speaker. It's empty rhetoric on the other side as always. In fact, he should take a look at the CMHC's report from today that puts a spotlight on Montreal, 106% increase in rental construction. Why is that, Mr. Speaker? Because GST has been waived by this government to ensure greater supply, to incent builders during a difficult time. He has no idea how to incent that sector. He's good at running around the country and insulting mayors, putting a spotlight on the homeless, but coming up with no ideas on that. It's more right-wing populism. They have nothing to say, Mr. Speaker.
Come on, Pierre, clap back.
The official opposition.
In a carbon tax election, if that's true.
Unfortunately, the Bloc Quebecois is telling Quebecers, wait. If you can't pay your bills, just wait. If you can't buy a home, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, just hang on. If you're afraid of going out on the street because of crime that the Bloc Liberals have unleashed in our streets, in Quebec, a province that is at a breaking point because of immigration, they're just saying, hang on. Quebecers don't need to wait. They don't need to wait, Mr. Speaker. They need to choose a new government based on good common sense.
Let the people decide.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the priority of our government is to deliver for all Quebecers and all Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That includes daycare spaces, a dental care program, historic housing investments, Mr. Speaker. In the meantime, what are the Conservatives concentrated on? Well, as we saw in the Journal de Montréal this week, Conservative MPs are being paid to go to Florida to sermonize on the importance of banning abortion and teaching creationism. You can't invent that, Mr. Speaker. They should be ashamed.
Even though members are not recognized on the floor and they shouldn't be speaking on the floor, I always invite them to be very mindful of the accusations that they make to other members.
Yeah.
The honourable
where's the proof?